Shalom everyone, welcome to this week's Living Torah, and up a little early here on this Tuesday morning because a few weeks ago, before I went to Israel actually, I got this wonderfully written love letter from Macon County here in Franklin, North Carolina, or actually Franklin's in Macon County, but requesting my presence for jury duty, or as they call it now, jury service. Feels the same either way, so you can change the words, whatever. I want to say a word of thank you to many of you who have continued to give to the projects in Israel. I just was able to send funds this morning, and I don't even know the details on this one. I ask, and they're like, "You can't ask." But I trust my the folks I work through. I trust them totally and completely beyond words. But I can just tell you that as the winter continues in Israel, the winter continues in specifically in the south, that there's a number of soldiers there that will be warm as they're fighting this battle. So thank you guys, all of you, those of you who keep this ministry going, those of you who have been giving to Israel. It is every time we receive a donation, it's I just have a hard time really sometimes putting the words thank you into words that they seem so kind of flat most of the time. Speaking of donations, here we come into this Torah portion of Teruma, or contributions. Now, I've taught this set of verses, this Torah portion, well over 100 times in teaching on the tabernacle. If you want a bit of a refresher on the tabernacle, or you really don't understand all the concepts behind it, a number of years ago, I was asked to go over to, I think it was outside of Nashville, Lebanon. Hebrew Roots Network was gracious enough to help in the recording of my teaching on the tabernacle. So you can go to Hebrew Roots Network and you can get those the videos on that. If you have a hard time finding them, just let me know. I'd be glad to send you the links. It says, Yudhevavhe said to Moshe, "Tell the people of Israel to take up a collection for me, accept a contribution from anyone who wholeheartedly wants to give." Knowing people the way that I do, and being in ministry as I was questioned yesterday regarding, what do you do and all these things, and the attorney that was questioning me, I was kind of expecting him to say, "You're excused," but he didn't. I guess he figured I was going to go by the book as best I could. But being in ministry for well over 30 years now, I've heard a lot of things. And most of them are excuses. And I just wonder, as to quote the words of an Oklahoma prophet, people change but not much. When Moshe went to the people and said, "All right, this God that has delivered us out of Egypt wants you to give unto him." And they're like, "Okay, could you explain that?" And someone probably from the back of the crowd said, "That's done away with." And someone else said, "Well, we haven't actually gotten that instruction yet." And I don't know. I'm speculating here, but I just have a funny feeling that there were people that said, for all those years in Egypt, we just didn't really have much, and now that we do, we're going to hold on to it. And someone else said, "Well, Moshe, I'd like to get a list of where this contribution is going to go to, and I'd like to see the blueprints first before I give." And it went on and on and on. In the end, excuses are kind of like the guy that was asked about something, and he said, "Well, I'd love to do that, but I ran out of peanut butter." And the person said, "You ran out of peanut butter. What does that got to do with anything?" And he said, "Well, it really doesn't. But when you don't want to do something, one excuse is as good as another." And so for those who in the wilderness refused, did not want to give, it's peanut butter. For those who continue to, I love it. People put up on Facebook. I was talking to the guys on Life on Purpose last night. People that went out and put all kinds of money into a Super Bowl party this last Sunday, but will come up with every excuse in the world not to give to the work that the Father is doing upon this earth. I'm blessed that I don't have to hang out with those people very much. I don't, when I see their Facebook posts and all of these things, I just delete it. I just move on. I don't spend a lot of time because I want to spend time with people who are interested in doing something, not with those who aren't. And regarding giving unto his kingdom, being a part of it, I go back to a bit of a transcript of, or a doctored up version, I guess would be a good word there. Some words of Dietrich Bonhoeffer that are on the front page of my scripture. This is actually before the contents page, and it says, I have no right to participate in the fruit of redemption, restoration of his kingdom, if I have not shared in the trials of its coming. For those of you who are actively involved today in prayer for Israel, and I just as I was preparing, I saw on YouTube the video of the latest two hostages being released, and oh, it was so amazing to see these two men, and may the miraculous happen that all the rest of them are released soon, or at least their remains, so that the families can have closure. These soldiers that gave everything they had, to get these guys out. You who have prayed, you who have given, what are we doing? We're involved. We're involved in the restoration of that kingdom. And it says, you who, David Stern translates it, wholeheartedly, or others translations may say willingly want to give. It's an interesting word here, and it is, the word willingly is a nun, a dalet, and a hey. Which, if we break that down, the nun is life, the dalet is like a tent door, and the hay is, a bet. Let me do that one again. Nun, dalet, bait, and so the bait is a house. Okay, going back to last week, and the bondservant who was given the opportunity to leave the house, but he said, Ahav, Adonai, I love my master. I don't want to go anywhere. There's nothing outside of this house that is anything compared to what is inside this house. And so because I have developed a love for you, I don't want to go anywhere. I desire to just stay here in the house and develop this relationship with you and with everything that goes on here. So this word is in a way similar to that, because the first letter, the nun, is about life. The second letter is about a tent door, and the third letter is about a house. So it's about a person who is bringing life to the door of the tent. Now, consider this, that the tabernacle, the Mishkan in the wilderness, is a dream. It is a dream with heavenly realm foundation. If we go to the book of Hebrews specifically, and you can read this on your own, Hebrews chapter 8. And it's the writer says to the Hebrews that the Mishkan that was built in the wilderness was patterned after. It was a blueprint. It was, if you would, a model of what is in the heavenly realm. Now, do I believe that there is a tabernacle with goat's hair and with gold and silver and all of these things in somewhere? No. This is a realm, and for the most part, I think I talked about this a little bit last week. In our human psyche, it is our desire, or it is not our desire, it is just our natural response to try to bring forth things from the heavenly realm into our earthly realm to where we can understand them. Instead of the opposite, of taking the earthly realm that we see, and then the words of Shaul and saying, eye is not seen, ear is not heard, nor has it entered into the heart of man, the things that he has prepared. When we see what the heavenly realm tabernacle is, we're going to be overwhelmed at the simplicity, but yet the beauty of what it is and what that realm actually is. Let me move off of there. But there is a dream that the Creator had, and that was that there would be a people. This is going back to teachings from Revelation chapter 21. There would be a people that he would dwell in the midst of. They would be his people, and he would be their Elohim, their God. And so, somewhere in the midst of it, he says, everybody has. There's something that everybody in the wilderness has, and pretty much everyone has had from the beginning of time, and that is a house. You look even today in this charged society that we have of homeless, and what a homeless want. They want a house. They want They want a tent. They want a blanket. Everybody wants something that they can kind of call their own that can give them shelter and protection from the elements. The Almighty does not need shelter and protection, but He does desire a home. And so He said, I want to have a tent. Everyone there in the wilderness has a tent to put their family in. Well, I want to have a tent that I can put my glory in. I can put my essence in, and my tent will be the center of all of your tents. I have a picture just over to my right of the artist's mind of what that looked like, and I've seen numerous paintings that have been done to try to depict this. I think all of them, though all of them are beautiful, and especially this one that's the colors, you might have seen this, of the sunset and the Shekinah coming down in the fire. And I can stare at that picture as I have for a long time, but it just does not, that painting, but it just does not come up to what I think it was. That you think about this tent that was in our reality as we go through the verses of it. The outside is just skin. It's maybe porpoise skin, and there's nothing really beautiful about the gray porpoise skin. But in the end, it's His tent, and it really had no outward form or beauty that anyone should behold it. But when you understood what was inside of it, it had a beauty beyond words. So this tent is that He brought a dream from His heavenly realm into our earthly realm. And then, kind of the crazy thing is He said that my dream cannot be realized unless you bring life into it. Unless you bring life into the tent door, to the tent door of my house, it will only be a dream. It will only be when you bring life that it will be manifested. So, I mean, you think about that for a moment. When we bring an offering of praise, when we bring an offering of thanksgiving, when we bring an offering of prayer for the shalom of Israel, of Jerusalem, when we bring a declaration of the Shema, when we bring an offering of funds, what are we doing? We're bringing life. We're literally able to put life into His dream and bring it forth in a manifestation upon this earth. Now, here's another aspect of this, is that, these are a people, He knows them pretty well by now. They came out of Egypt complaining. They've complained along the trip. And within just a couple of short chapters here, we're going to see that they get involved in a golden calf. These are not the perfect people, okay? These are people with a lot of faults, a lot of issues, a lot of stuff, really. When you really look at it, they got a lot of stuff. And He says, I even with your stuff, I want to live in your midst. See, he didn't ask for them to be worthy first before He built His tent in their midst. Think through that one for a moment. He did not ask for them to be worthy before they started construction on the tent. He said, I see who you are. I know your faults. I know your failures. I created you. I knew you before you were formed in your mother's womb. I've got all the baggage. I'm considered all the baggage, and I still want to live in your midst. That thought, that one thought is just like beyond my comprehension. Some of you I've known for a long time. And I can kind of, figure that God would love to hang out with you. I mean, in my estimation, from what I've seen, your life is amazing, and you're looking at me going, yeah, but you don't really know me. Yeah, I got the same problem here. That I can see why He would want to hang out with you, but in coming up on 40 years now, a couple of years from now, I mean, it's like 37 years that I've been attempting to follow Him. There has not been a day that has gone by that I've really thought, wow, I'm somebody that, the creator of the universe, the one that is kadosh, 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 3 times holy, I'm somebody that really deserves for Him to want to hang out with me. Never come to that conclusion. But see, it doesn't matter. The Word says that He wants to hang out with us just as we are. And maybe through that, Him hanging out with us, then maybe some of Him will rub off on us. I think that's kind of the essence of the gospel in a way. So this is a picture, back to last week's word, this is a picture of intimacy in our midst. He desires to be intimately a part of our lives. Now, in Egypt, they would have had a temple. They would have had images of their gods. When they go into Canaan, they're going to find that the people that are there have temples of some sort and have images of their gods. Any society that they come up along, because there's not a society that's ever been that didn't have their own gods. Okay, I got it. Sometimes many cultures made themselves their gods, kind of like what's happening today. but that's another subject. But every society has their God because it's an innate, it's an ingrained aspect of who we are to find something to worship. And we have a choice to either worship the one who has given us the revelation of who he is or something in our own image. And this is really as they are interacting, as they're thinking back to Egypt, as they will see as they go into Canaan. Wow. All of these societies have their own pagan gods. But they're the only ones that have a revelation. See, the difference in the Mishkan and the temples that we read about in both the Tanakh and the Renewed Covenant, in the book of Acts specifically, the difference is that the God that's represented in those temples is one of human imagination, one of man's hands. But the Hebrews had in their midst a divine revelation that was a blueprint of the heavenly realm. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is what we today in Messiah are supposed to be a revelation of. We are supposed to be, as we walk upon this earth, we are supposed to be that divine revelation. How are we doing at that? Well, that's a question each of us has to ask. Now, the construction of the tabernacle would begin on the outside, but the revelation began on the inside. When we go down and we read, starting in verse 10, it talks about the Ark of the Covenant, of acacia wood, 3 3/4 feet long. Going on from there, you guys can read all the details of it. Now, every single detail, even the ones that we don't understand, every single detail has meaning. I try to bring that out in the teachings that I did. It's about 5 hours of teachings that's on Hebrew Roots Network. Every single detail, and there's so many of the details that I have really no clue about. And I think that's going to be an amazing thing in the kingdom as Messiah teaches us through the Torah portions. I mean, imagine those studies. You don't want to show up late for those. In fact, I'm just kind of thinking you might not want to show up late for worship on those. Just a thought there. I'll move on for those that show up late for everything. Well, I guess I should have moved on a little earlier, shouldn't I? This thought that though Moshe had to begin in the building on the outside, the revelation began at the heart, at the inside. And this is a message to us of what the Father desires to do in our own lives. You've heard me say through the years that God is not concerned about our behavior. And that gets people's attention because, but what about the Torah? What about if you love me, keep my commandments? Okay, I got it. But see, he's not, let me rephrase it, he's not as concerned about our behavior. He's concerned about our identity. He's concerned about what's on the inside. Because what's on the inside is what will drive that which is on the outside. As I was sitting through jury service interviews yesterday and listening to them, the person who is accused of a crime, that's all I can say until it's over, the person that's accused of a crime is sitting there. And the attorney, the defense attorney, assistant DA, is asking people, are you willing to impartially judge this person guilty or not guilty based upon the evidence. Well, the only way that you could have done that would be for the jury, those that are prospective jurors, to be blindfolded. Because when we look, as Samuel did, at the older son of Jesse, what did he do? He judged based upon the outward appearance. Guys, we can't get out of this, okay? We can attempt to, but we judge based upon outward appearance. The one of the goals that we should have in life is to no longer do that. And the only way we can do that is when we begin to pray that the Father would allow us to see people as He sees them, not as we see them. Because it is our natural tendency to judge based upon outward appearance. Whereas He says, that's not how I judge. I judge by what's on the inside. And the tabernacle teaches us this concept of looking at what is inside of a man, not what is on the outside. Because what is on the inside will eventually change that which is on the outside. Now, the scripture goes on and talks about out of the 7 pieces of implements that are in the tabernacle, in the top 7 list to me is the menorah. Okay, I'm sure you just got how that was said. So the menorah is, to me, fascinating, as each piece is fascinating in its own realm. But I think that the menorah has this added facet of revelation. The way that we have at Life Assembly, we begin our services. This is done also, I know Barry Phillips does this, and maybe some others, is with a look and reading of the words of Isaiah chapter 11. This thing of the menorah, God's into symbolism. Yeah, He says put a mezuzah on your door. That's a symbol. He tells us about the zitziot, the prayer shawl. I mean, I know that is, the prayer shawl has kind of evolved through the years. But what is it? It's a symbol. What is this piece of gold on, or whatever? I think it's got a little bit of gold in it. What is this piece of metal on my finger? It's a symbol. Okay, we have symbols for all kinds of things. And He has given us a symbol of what we are to be in this world. Now, the symbol that has become the symbol of Christianity, the symbol of the quote-unquote church, has become the cross. I cannot find that anywhere in the Scripture. I'm not going to go into all my ideas behind that, and I'm not taking anything away from the importance of the execution stake of Messiah. But as we look, He did not give us an execution stake as a symbol. He gave us a menorah. You go to the 7 congregations, the 7 kahal, and I meant to bring this out. I found out something fascinating last week, or as in my Israel tour, and this was trip, and this was just kind of in conversation with someone. They were discussing. It was actually Moshe Kapinski and somebody else. They were discussing the word kahal. Of course, my ears perked up because our congregation is Kahal Chaim, or Life Assembly, and it was. He said, he brought out that The word kahal, and he wasn't actually speaking it from Paleo-Hebrew, but this is what it means, of a group of people that are called to the shepherd's staff, called to the authority of the shepherd's staff. But Moshe took it a different place, that I can see this in the word, yes. But I never thought about this. A people that are called to the staff who have no regard for themselves. So when you're called to that shepherd's staff, you no longer think as much about yourself, but you think about the shepherd of the staff. And so the whole thing about the menorah is that we are to be a people that are not focusing on, though we understand that the reason that we have life is because of his death. But because of his death, we now focus on life. So to the 7 congregations of Ephesus, of Laodicea, of Philadelphia, to those 7 congregations, it becomes a menorah. If we go to Isaiah chapter 11, we can overlay them with those this so-called 7 spirits of God. We can overlay them with the 7 congregations and see that each one had a need that would be fulfilled in the menorah. I'll give you the example is Ephesus. You've lost your first love. So we go, the spirit of Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh will rest upon him. What do they need to do? They need to get back to the one who called them. They need to go back and fall in love with him all over again. Whereas to the end, in the congregation at Laodicea, I wish you were hot or cold. But because you're lukewarm, I'm going to spit you out of my mouth. And what did they need? They needed that 7th, the spirit of fearing Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh, which will drive you one way or another, hopefully, prayerfully, in the right direction. A righteous fear of who he is. The fact that we will one day stand before him and give an account for everything we do. And in that day, leave your peanut butter excuses behind, folks. They're not going to hold anything. In that day, all will be revealed. And excuses will be revealed as just what they are, or were, excuses. So, I would urge you that in this day that we live in, the 7-fold spirits. Now, this is the essence, and I'll get to this in just a moment. Again, this is the essence of the word echad. Echad is a plurality of a singular. I'm not going to go into all that, but there is. So when I say that the 7-fold spirits of God, this does not mean that he's 7 now, because he's still one. Shema Israel, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. He is one. In the book of Zechariah, chapter 14, I believe it is, his name will be one. In Zechariah chapter 14, we're going to understand the word Echad. We're going to understand the concept that the Almighty can place a part of himself in a tent and still be one. The fact that he placed his Shekinah, his glory, in a tent, you should be hearing some things behind what I'm saying. The fact that he put himself, a part of himself, into a tent in the wilderness to walk in the midst of the Hebrews does not make him 2 gods. He was still Echad. He was still one. And so the 7-fold spirits he is Echad. But I challenge you to get a hold of these. Now, at a preliminary reading, a lot of people say, well, wait a minute, there's only 6. But when we see the spirit of Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh, everything flows out of his essence. So we must establish that that you cannot have wisdom, true wisdom, outside of him. You cannot have true understanding outside of him. True counsel, true power, true knowledge, true fear of him outside of him. So if we consider that the spirit of Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh is that which was breathed into this realm through Moshe and the Torah, through the prophets, through the writings, through David, through the essence of Yeshua himself, through the apostolic writings, that is the Word. His Word is the totality of who he is. But yet, flowing out of that is his wisdom, his understanding, his counsel, his power. So can we have knowledge that is outside of him? Well, that would be, I think, the Stoics. Can we have a wisdom that is outside of him? Yeah, I think it's called foolishness. Can we have an understanding of, let's say, creation that is outside of him? That'll make a monkey out of you. Can we have a fear of God that's not a godly fear of God? Think about that one. Because it is the I'm afraid of him instead of I'm in awe of him. So I challenge you to take these 7 spirits, and what we do at Life Assembly is Alex or someone else will stand and light each one, and we'll recite, Father, we receive the spirit of wisdom, and the congregation will, or we ask for the spirit of wisdom, and the congregation will say, we receive the spirit of wisdom. Maybe you want to look through these and this Shabbat as you or as a family. Just say, Father, I desire to receive your spirit of wisdom. As the days continue, I desire to receive your understanding, not mine. In situations that are in this world, maybe in my family and my finances, I ask to receive your counsel. In the areas of life that I feel weak, I ask to receive your power. So it is a symbol. The menorah is a symbol of who we are to be and what is to flow in and through us. Now back to this word echad. In chapter 26, it says, so the tabernacle forms a single unit. In Hebrew it says echad mishkan. Echad mishkan. So we would put this as, well, it has the outer court, the holy place, the Holy of Holies, and we would try to separate it. I did in 3 teachings, I did this. So actually I kind of separated it. Okay, there's the menorah, and there's the table of showbread, and there's the altar out there, and there inside is the Ark of the Covenant, and these are all their own pieces. Yes, they are. But once again, that word echad is a plurality of a singular. And so when we look at the tabernacle, we should be seeing it's one message. And that message is the Word became the Shekinah and dwelt among them. To loosely take the words of Yochanan or John, the Word became flesh and dwelt among us. Well, before the Word became flesh and dwelt among us, the Word was his Shekinah and dwelt among them. It's the same message. Same exact message. And so with this, there's a few verses I want to go to. First of all, if you want to try to turn there quickly, it is the words of Amos. Amos chapter 9. starting in verse 11. It says, when the day comes, I will raise up the fallen sukkah, the fallen Mishkan of David. I will raise up the tent of David. I'm going to just keep reading this because it's so fascinating. I will close up, and the words prior to is about the Goyim, by the way. I will close up its gaps, raise up its ruins, and rebuild it as it used to be, so that Israel can possess what is left of Edom, and all the nations bearing my name, says Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh, who is doing this. The days will come, says Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh, when the plowman will overtake the reaper, the one treading grapes, the one sowing seed. Sweet wine will drip down the mountains, and all the hills will flow with it. I will restore the fortunes of my people Israel. They will rebuild and inhabit the ruined cities. They will plant vineyards and drink wine, cultivate gardens and eat their fruit. I will plant them on their own soil, no more to be uprooted from their land, which I gave them, says Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh, your Elohim. A day that he will restore the fallen tent of David. Why does he not say the temple of Solomon? Why does he not say or David's, the temple of David, which Solomon built? Why doesn't he say the second temple at the time of Nehemiah or Herod's temple? And this has nothing to do with teaching on the third temple. Okay, where I'm going is that's a totally different subject. Why does he say the fallen tent of David, the Mishkan? Because the Mishkan was the essence of the simple message, the simple yet complex message of Messiah. When you looked at the tabernacle in its form and beauty that no one should really behold, when you saw the sheets brought together, when you saw the cords holding the uprights, when you saw the nails, the stakes in the ground, at every point you saw a revelation of Messiah. To get to the temple of David and Solomon, I've always questioned, and I'm not teaching a doctrine here, but I've always questioned, was the temple really God's desire? Or was it David's desire and God went along with it? I know the rest of that. I just want you to consider this because, see, in the Mishkan in the wilderness, there was no divisions. There was the order of the priesthood going into the holy place, the Holy of Holies. But there was no women's court. There was no court of the Gentiles. There was no court of this and court of that. It was a place in which the people came together as one. There was, in that outer court, there was no Jew or Gentile. They had all come together as echad, as one. And so maybe this is why it says that I will restore the fallen tent, Mishkan, tabernacle of David. And this is also quoted, I'll let you go over there into Acts chapter 15, verse 16. The early disciples, and of course, when someone thinks about Acts chapter 15, it's, what are the Gentiles supposed to do? There's 4 things the Gentiles, no, it's 5. Number 5 is that they would learn the Torah of Moshe from one Shabbat to another. And so if we thought about Acts chapter 15 and the 4 things the Gentiles were given in light of, I will restore a place into where there is no such thing as Jew and Gentile anymore, but we come together as one people with one God, excuse me, with one set of instructions in one land. for one purpose, and that is upholding his name. If we think about that, then Acts chapter 15, the rest of it, is a little bit easier to understand. So, there is, to me, verses here of when the plowman overtakes the reaper, sweet wine will drip down upon the mountains. This is talking about the mountains of Ephraim. This is talking about places like Mount Gerizim, the mountains around Itamar, Shiloh. This is talking about those mountains, and right now there is a precursor to this. That every year, for the last 20 years, as Hayavel, as the volunteers have been in, you put those grapes in the dolebs, the big crates. It looks like a milk carton on steroids, and the weight of the grapes begins to push down, and the grapes that are at the bottom, because a grape has the yeast on the outside, it ferments naturally. And so what is actually dripping out of those dolebs is sweet wine on the mountains of Israel. And so these verses are in our midst today. They are in the process of fulfillment in our day. They will plant vineyards and drink their wine. Many of us have been there and helped plant and prune and harvest, and have been able to drink some of the wine of the hills of Samaria. The verse prior to, they will rebuild and inhabit the ruined cities. I looked this year. I was standing there just off of Itamar, looking over Shechem, modern-day Nablus, occupied territory. And I saw the houses that are encroaching into Area C, the land of Israel, political land of Israel. And I noticed one in the distance. This thing was a mansion. And I thought about it, and I thought, the verses say you will live in houses you did not build. How many of these houses that are being built in the land of Israel today are being built for somebody else? Oh, they don't understand this, of course, but they're being built for someone else. And maybe that someone else is you. I don't know. I will plant them on their own soil, no more to be uprooted from their land which I gave them, says Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh, your Elohim. Folks, may it be our prayer today that we know we live in a time in which Judah, specifically, has been brought back into the land. And for those who would say that Israel is not Israel and the Jews are not the Jews, I doubt if anybody that has that stupidity in their mind is listening to me. Yeah, I said that just like it is, and I don't back off of that. But our prayer should be, Father, you've brought the southern kingdom. We long for the day that you bring the northern kingdom back. And may this be the time in history that they're no longer uprooted. They and we are there to stay. May it be. Shabbat Shalom, Shavua Tov. Have a blessed, prosperous week. Bezrat Hashem, God willing. See you again next week. Until then, be strong.
Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmarecha. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'yichunecha. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom.